So let's get started then.
Sounds good.
Okay, good. Welcome everyone. My name is Sumit. I'm the Assistant Director for Alberta Sports Support Unit's Patient Engagement Platform. And thank you, Kayla, for starting the slide. So before we get started, next slide, please. Before we get started, I would like to acknowledge that our work takes place on historical and contemporary Indigenous lands, including the territories of Treaty 6, 7, and 8, and the homeland of the Métis. We also acknowledge that many Indigenous communities that have been forged in urban centers across Alberta. Next slide, please. So before we proceed to the presentation, I would like to share the mission of the SPORE Patient Engagement Platform, which is to working together with provincial organizations to support patient engagement, transforming the culture of healthcare research in Alberta to improve health and healthcare. Now, today I'm pleased to welcome you to this session titled United Voices, a community response to address immigrant youth mental health. So just to give a brief background, in 2019, a 9-year-old Syrian refugee died by suicide in Calgary, Alberta. Community partners recognize the need to address youth mental health, specifically in immigrant communities. While there has been an increasing focus on mental health promotion in youth and adolescents, less attention has been paid to the specific experiences and needs of youth in immigrant communities. The United Voices Committee was formed to address this issue. Next, I'll just briefly go over the housekeeping rules and about our speakers. So this session is best viewed in speaker view, not gallery view. Please keep your video camera off to ensure your privacy and to prevent interference with your audio. To access reaction buttons such as thumbs up, click on participants at the bottom of the live stream window. You will then see the reaction icons at the bottom of the participants tab. If you have questions, please post them in Zoom chat box or in the Hua Q&A box or Hua chat box. We have Christine Sellinger, I hope I'm pronouncing that correct, from our team here helping to moderate questions. If you experience technical difficulties, the best first step is to exit and then rejoin this session. You can also post questions in the chat box in Hua for technical help from our team. This session is being recorded and you can watch the recording later when it gets posted on Hua. Now today we have 6 co-presenters. So before we get started with the presentation, I would like to request them to briefly introduce themselves. I already have their names here. So maybe we just get started according to this sequence. So Tiffany.
Yeah, hi everyone, happy to be here. I'm Tiffany Barbosa. I'm the Community Engagement Coordinator at the Patient Engagement Platform, Alberta SPORE.
Perfect. Heather, is he here yet?
Yes, he's just joined us.
Okay. In the meantime, maybe Kayla.
Hi, everyone. My name is Kayla Leese. I work at Immigrant Services Calgary. I'm the Program Development Officer there and a part of United Voices as well.
Fiona?
Hello, my name is Fiona Haynes. I'm with the Mental Health Commission of Canada and I'm the Program Manager for the Headstrong Youth Leadership Program for Western Canada.
Perfect. And Hannah?
Hi, my name is Hannah. I'm part of the Immigrant Services Calgary team. I'm the team manager for Youth Program Core Connections. Thank you.
Perfect. Brian?
Hi there, my name is Brian Steele. I'm a research assistant in the Department of Pediatrics at the University of Calgary.
Perfect. And lastly, Heather?
Hi there, my name is Haider Hassan. I work with Team Immigrant Services Calgary as a CEO. Pleasure to be here.
Perfect. Yeah, and with that introductions, I think let's jump into the presentation. So Tiffany, you can go ahead.
Tiffany, I think you're on mute.
Need to mute, yeah, unmute yourself.
Sorry about that. Hi, everyone. Talking about the community engagement and the patient engagement platform strategy, we have been very intentionally building different kind of relationship with different levels of governments, with service providers, We are very connected with communities, organizations, and community leaders. And what we want to get through this community engagement is actually to reach the voices of the people and to elevate these voices in everything that we do. And we already know that the faith communities is an important piece and sector that people are actually involved. For the next slide, is how we do that. We build partnership and collaboration. We build this partnership based on trust. We came to the table and we want to show through this presentation how amazing has been working in collaboration and partnership and building the knowledge, the expertise, but also the passion in everything that we do, to be able to reach a common goal, to move for action, and to actually get to the end users and to invite the people to participate. This amazing United Voices collaboration and partnership as a community response for the immigrant youth mental health in the province. Has been an amazing journey, and we have been able to build awareness and to build capacity. Part of the community engagement importance, why it's important, is because we are able to do evaluation, not only to have some evidence base and database, but it's also about the room that we live to improve and do things better for the next time. And building up, it's what is next. I keep building, and everything that we are doing, not only here when we started, some of the presenters will cover that in a minute, but it's everything that we can do not only here in Calgary, South Alberta, or Alberta in general, but how we can expand that and include all Albertans in what we do, especially with this amazing partnership in United Voices. Why is important is for the next slide, is because we are able to increase community cohesion and to see better results. We are reaching people right in urban, remote, and urban Alberta. So it is important intersectoral collaboration and partnership. As I mentioned, it takes a huge commitment for every organization to move this forward. So you already mentioned about participation, diversity, and inclusion, that we will be ensuring inclusiveness in everything that we do, and always looking for a great impact. And at the end of the day, what we are looking as well is sustainability. So sustainability will help us to avoid duplications, but other is just to put together our efforts, our time, experience, as I mentioned before. Important piece, the passion, but how we can impact and replicate everything that we do, especially for the benefits in this particular case for the immigrant youth communities in Canada. I guess that the next one is how we define United Voices. United Voices, it was a call of action, and happy to share in this time and this moment and this presentation with amazing people. We are part of United Voices, and to have Heider here and Fiona as a Mental Health Commissioners Canada representative, and Heider as the CEO of the Immigrant Services Calgary. And actually, it's like building anything. We have been talking about building trust, collaboration thing, and sometimes building that relationship takes to have a meeting with the person, to have a coffee, to have a conversation, and to have a mutual understanding and to share. It has been an amazing journey for us as a patient engagement platform to be part of the United Voices. And I will pass the mic to Heider.
All right, thank you so much for that, Tiffany. And I think we're really excited about this project because it shows stretched collaboration, as Tiffany was mentioning, between best-in-class organizations leading not only in our city, but this has become an example nationally, because recently we got published in a conference called Pathways to Prosperity. And so I'm really proud of this. So how did this start? It was actually a sad event where unfortunately we had a tragic death by suicide, which created waves in the community. It was a client who was a refugee that was impacted. And the community was demanding answers. They were doing their diagnostic on why that happened. And so Immigrant Services Calgary and our team received a few of those calls. And then a few sector leaders said that, look, Immigrant Services Calgary, you guys are really good at convening the community. So why don't you convene a meeting and sort of talk about it and take people through like a problem diagnostic after you've done the grieving process. So we did exactly that. In a week's notice, we invited the community, and guess what? In our typical Calgary way, Alberta way, 80 plus agencies show up to our doorsteps. I remember, I think I had to ask one of our leaders to lower down the heat because the room got so hot because we weren't expecting so many people to show up. You name it, they were there. AHS, all the way to police, to civil society groups, to government, to funders. And after that event, I'll turn it over to my team to tell you what happened.
Thank you, Haider. So as Haider mentioned, this town hall was where Immigrant Services Calgary and the Mental Health Commission of Canada Headstrong program first met and decided to join forces to use their Headstrong model for an immigrant youth summit. So shortly after this was when Alberta SPORE was also welcomed into the fold. And soon what was only supposed to be a small handful of organizations working together turned into the 21 organizations that you see listed here to form United Voices. So this magnitude of the committee was unprecedented, but as more organizations wanted to join and kept approaching to join the committee, even more kept following suit to join the United Voices Committee as well. So just by looking at some of the organizations we have listed here, the committee encompasses a wide range of areas of expertise. And this includes organizations that work with youth, organizations that work with immigrants and specific ethnocultural communities, as well as organizations that specialize in research and others that focus on mental health, wellness, and suicide prevention as well. So I'm just going to briefly discuss the responsibilities of the United Voices Committee, what we do and what we set out to do. So committee members have regular monthly meetings, and these meetings are to lead partnerships and activity planning within the committee in order to bring mental health focused activities to the immigrant community throughout the year. One of the biggest strengths of the committee that I briefly touched on is the diverse range of organizations and the large number of organizations involved. So we're constantly leaning on the expertise of all of these committee members to ensure that best practices are being followed in everything that we do. So lastly, one of the responsibilities of the United Voices Committee is to form the planning committee for the United Voices Immigrant Youth Wellness Summit, which we're going to be learning about more shortly. So now I will pass it to Fiona, I apologize, and she's going to be telling you about the Mental Health Commission of Canada and Headstrong.
Okay, so we can move on to the next slide. Kayla, please. So a quick introduction to the Mental Health Commission of Canada. We are funded by Health Canada and work at arm's length from the federal government, advising on policy and practice. The Mental Health Commission of Canada, or MHCC's mission, is to improve the lives of all people affected by mental health problems or mental illness. That means people that live with those problems themselves, family members, healthcare providers, everybody that is impacted. And the Mental Health Commission is responsible for creating some really key strategies for mental health and stigma reduction in Canada, including the first ever national mental health strategy, including the national standard in Canada for psychological health and safety in the workplace, and the fabulous program Headstrong that I head up, which I'm excited to tell you about next. Okay. So what is Headstrong? Headstrong is Canada's only evidence-based youth mental health leadership program. That's a very long way of saying that we help young people understand the power that they have and the influence they have, and then they take that power and influence and they change people's minds about mental health. It's fully evidence-based. We have around 20,000 youth surveys and pieces of feedback that show that we're on the right track and doing the right things. It's a two-part program, and that's the key to its secret, because Headstrong is not a one-day, let's have a really great fun event and then forget about it, which happens unfortunately a lot. Even with the best of intentions, school life is busy and it can be difficult for young people to remember the different things they've attended. But with Headstrong, they come to a one-day summit where they learn all about mental health, they learn about stigma, they learn about youth empowerment, and then they go back to their school and they take the lead on changing how people think about mental health and illness, reducing stigma, increasing early help seeking, and learning how to support each other in a completely age-appropriate way. Contact education is really important for Headstrong, and by contact education, I mean the stories of people with lived experience of mental illness. Headstrong speakers are carefully selected and carefully trained to share their stories, but their stories are such an important part of reducing stigma and helping young people understand that even with a persistent or long-term mental illness, people can and do live fulfilling, satisfying lives full of achievement and potential. And that's something we really want young people to see, because it automatically reduces their fear and concern around some of the more serious mental health disorders. Resilience and action orientated is what Headstrong is. We really want young people to feel that they can make a difference. And I describe resilience as being grace and grit combined. It's the grace to accept that sometimes things don't go well in your world, and the grit and determination to learn about yourself, face your struggles and keep moving forward, and then take that knowledge with you on your journey, so the next time you come across a challenge, you have that much more ability to manage it. Over the last, since late 2014, we've actually just celebrated our 6th birthday. We've held 148 summits across 9 provinces in Canada and 2 territories. And we've also held 2 summits in Dublin, Ireland. And next year we are going a fully international program, which we're really excited about. And our cascading reach in Canada alone is over 400,000 young people. Okay, so why was Headstrong chosen? Well, United Voices really wanted something that was ready to go, that we can enact quickly in response to the loss of this young girl who took her own life. We wanted to get something happening, and we wanted to focus on youth because we know that youth have that influence. And if we can help youth to see differently and change things, then what we can do is we can really, I'm sorry, my phone is ringing. I can't do anything about that one because it's not my cell phone. But we know that youth can change families' minds. They can change other kids' minds. They can change teachers' minds. That's why we wanted to focus on youth. So we have Headstrong. It's ready to go. It's proven. The focus is completely on youth leadership. And the other thing that's really important about Headstrong is the community collaboration. We're a very small team at Headstrong, but we work really closely with communities all over Canada. And that community collaboration is so important because communities know their youth. They know what they want, what they like, what they need, what the challenges are. And that's what we really need to tap into to make Headstrong really successful. With Headstrong, those lived experience speakers, it's really important that they reflect the audience. So with United Voices, we knew we had an amazing pool of organisations from which we could find our lived experience speakers that would reflect the young people in the audience. And that was really, really important. And youth do love Headstrong. They enjoy being able to take the lead themselves. They enjoy using their imagination and innovation to put on events and activities throughout the school year to decrease stigma, say increase help seeking, and really what they do is they create a movement, they create an energy that carries forward. And we're most successful when we have Headstrong, an annual summit, and then the youth do continual activities throughout the school year, whether they do 1 or 2 a month, whether they attach them to exam time or pink shirt day or whatever it is that they want to, however they want to do that. But those consistent activities by youth in schools is what creates long-term change, and we see that in our research. We know that young people can and do change the world, and through Headstrong, that's exactly what they're doing.
Excellent. Thank you very much, Fiona. As Fiona mentioned, we were able to use the wonderful evidence-based initiative Headstrong for something that it had never been done before in Southern Alberta: create the first mental health summit for immigrant youth. United Voices tailored a Headstrong program's activity to target immigrant and refugee youth. We created an event where all guest speakers were from an immigrant background in order for youth participants to really relate to them and be able to see their story as their own stories. United Voices welcomed strong immigrants that felt comfortable talking about their mental health experiences. Youth had the opportunity to see people like them that were not ashamed, people that felt proud of who they are and the experiences that they've lived. We really wanted to promote that it's okay to talk about mental health, that they could turn around and see other people like them feeling comfortable talking about mental health. And it was everyone, actually. It was the facilitators, the guest speakers, the youth attendees, the agencies. Everywhere where our youth looked, they would see other immigrants that were like very powerful, and they can be the people they could become, because Fiona say like they make the change. They are the leaders. Another great addition for the United Voices Immigrant Youth Wellness Summit was that previous weeks, youth had created mental health awareness posters with messages in different languages. So as we know, some of the youth attendees, some had higher English level, some others were still learning English and things like that. But everywhere they looked, they could actually see posters in different languages, so they could find their own language and understand more of the concept of what was going on. And that really brought such a positive atmosphere. And that is our final goal. Mental health doesn't have to be negative. And United Voices is working very hard to change that. We wanted to provide a safe environment for youth to ask questions and talk about topics that sometimes they cannot discuss with their family and friends. It was for really youth to understand that all of us have mental health experiences. Is that they just don't know if they're supposed to talk about them or to who. And United Voices was the place where they could ask all those questions. It was the first time we were running an event like this. We had lots of support from partners, but reality was that even though we were prepared, we saw and we ran into multiple challenges. One of the main challenges that we saw was that in some languages, they did not have a translation for the term mental health. So in these languages, the actual translation or word that you would use to describe mental health would be crazy or weak. We had a specific example with an East African community that did not feel comfortable with the event or talking about the topic. And a community leader tried his best to talk about mental health. He was so passionate and this was his goal to make it happen, but he did not receive the support from his community. People were really scared. You could see the stigma that was there in that community, but we were here to break it down. We had to bring the concern back to the committee. And after many discussions, we all decided we should start talking about wellness. Wellness means so much and means different things for each person. But at the end of the day, who doesn't want wellness? After multiple conversations with the community, I am happy to share that this particular East African community had the highest number of participants in the summit. Perfect. Now I'm going to share with you a little bit from the results of the United Voices Summit evaluation. I think it's wonderful what we were able to do in such a short period. So I just wanted to share it with you guys. You could see that before the summit, 58% of youth felt comfortable seeking help if thought they had a mental illness. And then after the summit, we see a huge jump to 74%. We could also see that at the beginning of the summit, 60% of youth knew how to help a friend that was struggling with their own mental health. And then at the end of the summit, once again, see a huge jump to 80%. We also see that 70% at the beginning of the summit knew how to help a friend who might feel suicidal. That changed at the end of the summit to a 75%. And finally, we see that before the summit, 66% of youth knew where to go ask for help if they worried about their own mental health, and that changed to 73%. Like Fiona mentioned, this event is not only one day. This is an initiative that we've been working as a committee for almost 2 years now. But even just to see everything we were able to accomplish on that day is what pushes us forward to continue working on it through the year. Thank you.
Hi, everyone. So as discussed before, I'm Brian Steele. I'm with the University of Calgary Department of Pediatrics. So one of the unique advantages of the United Voices Committee and having all of these organizations working together is there's really an opportunity for research that focuses on community priorities. So I'm going to talk to you a little bit about our first research priority coming out of the initial United Voices Summit. We designed this survey as a way to understand the information needs of people living in or working with immigrant communities as it pertains to youth mental health. So we're doing a priority setting partnership project. So it's kind of loosely based off of the James Lind Alliance framework. So the goal is to identify evidence uncertainties, so questions that can't be answered with existing research. And really it's to understand the questions people have about youth mental health in immigrant communities in Alberta. So previously in Alberta, there has been a depression priority setting partnership project. I would highly recommend checking that out for a little more on the methodology. We made some trade-offs. This is a community priority study rather than an individual clinical condition. So we're not doing focus group settings. We're doing a broader survey distributed through the Qualtrics platform. Now we are collecting a lot of information because the survey is set up to be short and completable on your phone, tablet, computer in about 10 minutes. It allows us to gather a lot of information, but obviously our specificity is limited. It's not going to be relevant in all contexts, but overall, we think it provides a framework for further research and collaboration, so a model with which to do future research, and we hope our initial results will spur change and action. So the survey, as I said, takes about, it's about 10 minutes. There's about 10 questions. So no personally identifiable information is collected, but the demographic data, and there's an open-ended question. So we basically ask people to identify themselves, whether they're youth, parents, or how they might be related to immigrant communities and youth within them. So ultimately, there's a question at the end that's a free text response. Basically says, what questions do you have about mental health in your community and youth mental health specifically? And there's a free text box to collect as many questions as they have. Like I said before, we chose the Qualtrics data platform. It's very easy to use. The data is all stored in Canada, which is a benefit definitely for ethics. The ethical considerations. So obviously this is a fairly sensitive topic and with potentially marginalized populations. So there was a lot of care and consideration specifically to not collect identifiable information and also provide resources in the survey that connect youth or people answering the survey with mental health resources in Canada or in Alberta specifically. There's also the challenge of recruiting. So because of the topic, we needed to have consent of minors who are 15 years and up. And obviously there are ever-present language barriers. The survey is designed at a grade 7 reading level, but ultimately it can only be completed in English. So obviously this is a limitation, but again, this whole survey, the goal is to provide a model for further research as well. So obviously COVID-19 created some challenges for recruitment. We had initially been going in person to Immigrant Service Calgary events, to the Headstrong events, but we've had to shift. We have experimented both recruiting online through email newsletters, but we found it very, very effective to actually be in meetings or Zoom hangouts that are happening at different agencies who are involved in the project. So it's been a challenge, but we're definitely working to overcome it. So we also have a steering committee who provide some unique perspective. It's made up of members across Alberta with professional, volunteer, or lived experience with mental health in immigrant communities. They have a couple of roles. So recruitment and dissemination, I'll touch briefly on. We want to make sure that we're engaging with and informing communities who could benefit from this information or could benefit from participating, who might be able to use this information to further their mission or improve mental health services. They also play an important role with survey validation, and I'll talk a bit about that in the next slide. It's just about how we set up to actually understand the priorities. The first survey, which I've kind of touched on, is about understanding the questions people have, but the second is about understanding the priorities. So naturally, we're going to get a lot of questions. Some will overlap or have very similar wording. The steering committee plays a role in ensuring that if questions are combined or eliminated, that the questions, the spirit of the questions continue to be carried forward to the second survey. Yeah, so this is just kind of a highlight of how the framework's working and the products from it. So the initial survey, we're hoping to get a data collection finished by the end of the year. We will be recruiting at the United Voices Summit this year, which we're really excited about. But the goal is to highlight unanswered uncertainties and questions with clear answers. So it's assumed that some of the questions that people have will have clear answers. One of the examples I always give, because it comes up in these, is, is mental health related to physical activity? Some of these more general questions about mental health. Our goal with the first report is basically to highlight areas where community-based organizations or others designing health promotion activities where they can kind of concentrate based on the answers that we're getting and the frequency that we're getting them. It also provides the setup for the second survey, as I mentioned before. So the goal there is to have we're expecting to have a final list of somewhere between 25 and 40 questions. This is kind of based off of previous priority setting partnership project outcomes. And the goal would be to send out a second survey using the same ways that we sent out the first survey. So that's through organizations involved with United Voices or who are immigrants serving in Alberta, and have people just rank which questions are most important to them. So pick your top 10. So we think that the reports and the results will have a couple of key impacts. So understanding what questions are most important to youth in their communities, understanding what questions that have clear answers should be discussed a little more in mental health promotion activities. So that education aspect. We think that it also provides opportunities for advocacy on the part of community-based organizations, and also a gateway for further research with those unanswered questions, centering the questions of that immigrant communities and immigrant youth specifically have in Alberta.
Yeah, we are super happy with this journey. I think that has been an amazing experience for all the people that taking part of this United Voices and community engagement, and to prove that working in collaboration and partnership actually help us to move in an effective way and to show the results that we are looking for, and to see actually that reflected in everything that we do. Amazing journey since May 2019. We were able to create the United Voices in June, and just in like four months, we were able to put together the first summit. We have more than 200 youth registered for that summit. Amazing experience. And during October, since October until now, we can say that different organizations have been developing different kind of programs to support youth, as such High Rivers region. They have programs in collaboration with some schools in rural areas to continue this job and to break the stigma. Headstrong, obviously, leading by Fiona and her amazing job, keeping working across the province, building all this knowledge and understanding and awareness about mental health. We are really proud as a patient engagement platform to be leading the Immigrant Youth Mental Health Priority Study in collaboration and partnership with the Mental Health Commission of Canada, Headstrong, Immigrant Services Calgary, and of course the collaboration of United Voices. So what is next, as Brian mentioned, we are going to to run the second summit November 21st, 2000. And the good news here is that the first summit was done here in Calgary and Southern Alberta. Now we are not only moving provincial-wise, inviting and be more inclusive about reaching the voices of the immigrant youth in rural and urban and remote Alberta, but we are also inviting other provinces to be part of that amazing summit. We are moving forward. We are showing effectiveness and results, and we are really happy about the work that we have been doing as a group and co-building together. Fiona.
Thank you. So just to finish up, we wanted to share our video with you from last year. United Voices is an organisation, well, a community group of organisations that have come together, inspired by loss of a young girl who felt that she had no control in her life, and so we're all about hope, and we're all about youth empowerment. We want young people to understand that they do have power. They have tremendous power for themselves and for their friends and for their families, and they can really make a difference. And none more so than young people from newcomer families. So here's our video celebration of our summit of last year, and we're looking forward to this year's summit. Even though it's online rather than in person, it's going to be an amazing day. Thank you very much.
We don't have the volume.
Change stars with our hands and hearts, make them shine alright. But no, don't worry, they won't stop standing back, but soon they'll be king.
And did you know that this is the first youth conference focused on education in Canada? And you get to be part of something which is so
it's like a really good environment to be in right now, considering that it's all about mental health, and you know, we're just there to support each other.
I've been able to empathize with people. People have been so vulnerable and courageous and like share their stories. And I feel like I'm not alone, and people understand, you know, like the stigmas that I go through as well.
Deep down we are the same. But no, don't worry, they won't stop standing, but soon they'll be carried.
I'm here. Let me stay here. You're welcome. Your kids and their kids and their kids who have any problems here.
are made of the exact same matter as when the universe was first created. So there's no point of us trying to be stars when we were born stars. All of it, every single one of us are stars.
Amazing. Thank you very much. Thank you very much for the presentation. And it was an amazing video to watch and to see all that positive vibe going on. Now let's get to the questions. Kelly, do we have, or Christine, do we have any questions on HUA?
No, we don't have any questions right now, but if anybody has any, feel free to enter them in the chat or in the Q&A.
Yeah, and yeah, and I don't see any questions here at the. Oh, I have one question from Haider. What are the next steps? I don't know. Is it for presentation or is it for the project?
I think he's talking about the project.
Okay, go ahead, please. Yeah, and Haider, if you want to specify whom this question is addressed to, or it's just in general for everyone.
Yeah, in general for everyone, basically. Just, Mental Health Commission, maybe Fiona, Kayla, Hani, and Tiffany, if you can comment and take some turns on what is the vision of this as we continue to evolve this in the future, especially and then I have a follow-up question after that I'll type.
Sure.
Well, guys, if you want to, I could start. Next steps, as Tiffany mentioned, we are hosting the next United Voices Summit virtual on November 21st. So I ask you guys, we'll share the poster with you, help us promote. As Tiffany mentioned, this is not only for Southern Alberta anymore. This is for anyone across Canada, any youth. You don't even have to be from an immigrant background. If you want to know more about mental health and be a leader in the community, this event is for you. We're really excited. We keep growing every time we think, okay, this is it. Something comes up and we keep fighting for mental health awareness.
Yep, and certainly we at the Mental Health Commission of Canada are absolutely thrilled to be part of this group of organisations that came together for such an important purpose. And we continue to meet regularly and talk and partner. We've held lots of different workshops with families from the Ethiopian and Eritrean communities. We've held another 4 youth summits for immigrant youth in Alberta since this first United Voices Headstrong event. So there's nowhere to go but up. And together, I really believe that we can make this difference that needs to happen so that every young person, no matter where they come from, who they are, what they're going through, they know that people care about them and that all they have to do is put their hand out and somebody will be there because we are here.
Yeah, regarding with the Immigrant Youth Mental Health Priority Study, we want to mention that we are interested to know the differences between the challenges, the needs and the gaps between the rural and urban and remote areas. And we will know that we will find very interesting differences and challenges for the immigrant communities. Happy to do that. And as Brian mentioned that, will be still recruitment process until the end of this year, and hoping to have the first results by next year. Thank you so much for a great effort for everyone. Super happy about all this. And just we are keep moving. And I think that it means a lot for the immigrant youth communities, and to be able to have the voice and the participation in such an important topic as mental health wellness.
It looks like we have one question here from Daniela. What is the best way for us to share info about the conference on social media, or are there other ways to share?
Sure. I guess that we are using different, depending the organizations, as a patient engagement platform. We are going to share this information in Alberta Sport website as well, and our media. And I guess that everyone has the Twitter, Facebook, etc. We are trying to reach as much people as we can. It is super important to have the voices of the youth here.
Yes, if you go to even Immigrant Services Calgary Twitter account or LinkedIn account, we've been posting regularly, and we'll keep posting about it. You can definitely retweet it, reshare it. I'm not sure if Kelly or Christine, we can send you the poster and the information for you to send to the attendees. I don't know if that's a possibility.
Oh, for sure. Yes, and I can post it on your session page as well.
Excellent. Thank you. Yes, help us promote. Let's help as many youth as we can.
Sounds good. I see a couple of questions have come in privately. You talked a little bit earlier about expanding the event to more than just youth or newcomers to Canada. Has there been any effort to engage Indigenous youth, and do you have any plans to do so?
So with Headstrong, we actually have a Headstrong model for First Nations youth and Métis youth, and we've actually held, oh my goodness, 19 Headstrong summits specifically for First Nations youth right across the country, in fact, which is an important part of the work that we do, and we're very proud to work with so many nations. I think initially at United Voices, we really wanted to focus on newcomer youth. But I think as we grow, our opportunity to reach out to more and more young people will also grow. And where we can celebrate difference, celebrate diversity, I think that's only going to be a positive moving forward, and including more and more young people.
Great, thanks very much for that response. And another question, can you tell us more about what your engagement efforts have been regarding outreach to schools and working through school mechanisms?
Sure. For patient engagement platform perspective, we have been engaging with different organizations across the province, try to connect with the immigrant sector in rural, urban, and remote area. So the first goal, building partnership with umbrellas organizations, with municipalities. Happy to say that we have been reaching like immigrant communities in Grand Prairie and Peace River, Good Buffalo. We have the Brooks, Lake Ridge, Red Deer, just to mention some of the organizations. And I guess that when we mention about building and doing that community engagement and bringing all sectors, including different levels of governments, communities, partners, faith communities, and of course the school divisions have been involved in all these, especially with Headstrong programs. Here in Calgary and remote, as I mentioned before, we have High River participation and really involved and active with the schools in the rural areas for the High River region. So we are hoping to spread the word and to keep building connections and partnership with different organizations across Alberta. And now we will start just spreading the word across Canada. That sounds amazing with Manitoba, from Immigrant Services Calgary connections and partnership with some of the connections that we have also in MBC as well, planning to invite these communities and probably to keep building this collaboration and partnership. And it's not about just building, but it's also about maintaining that relationship and to keep working together, focus on a common goal for the well-being of the immigrant youth mental health.
Yeah,
Great,
thank you.
Thanks very much for that.
I can just add to that as well a little bit. This is also where we lean on our committee members as well. As I had mentioned, we have so many organizations part of the committee, many of who work within the school system. So that is one way that United Voices can reach within the school system as well, is through our partners who are already providing programming and services in the schools as well.
Great, thanks very much for that. I think that's all the questions I can see. Were there any over in Huva, Christine?
No, there wasn't.
Okay, great. So I'll turn it back over to you, Samit.
Yeah, sure. I have a question to ask actually, because this is a great experience, great presentation to see that so many different agencies, which usually they work in their silos in their own areas, but they're coming together for a cause. Now, and we have representatives of all these organizations. So this question is for everyone. What do you think, what you learned or what your organization learned through collaboration for this project, and how that can be applied for other similar projects? And feel free to jump on.
So I'm going to jump in there right away. So as the Mental Health Commission of Canada, as I say, we're there to improve the lives of all Canadians. However, there were a lot of things that I didn't know or understand the extent of, particularly around the use of the term mental health and how that in itself can be a real problem for some communities. The depths that stigma does exist in some communities, which I had no real grasp of. So that's been a tremendous experience. And just to learn about the additional challenges that newcomers have that other Canadians perhaps don't have, including things that you think of like language, employment, those kind of things that just sort of spring to mind automatically. But other things like being afraid to reach out for help because you felt that it might put your status as a Canadian or as a permanent resident in jeopardy if you did that. Those are things that were really valuable lessons for us to learn as an organization to enable us to serve people much, much better going forward. So I'm eternally grateful for that opportunity.
Anyone? Yeah.
I'm just going to do a shout out to Haider here because his initiative was great. Like, we were already talking with Fiona, with Tiffany. We knew what we wanted to do. And usually in past collaborations, it's usually 3 to 4 agencies and things like that. We work well together. But Haider had a vision, a bigger vision, and he approached so many other immigrant service agencies. And it just started from there. We grew from 4 to 5, 6, 15, 21, like so many. And it was thanks to that great leadership, I would say.
And now you put me on the spot, so I have to say a few things. It's all about the team. And, one of the things we say internally is, I think you asked a really good question. See, the thing is, we have collaboration as a pillar for our strategic plan at Immigrant Services Calgary. So we take that very seriously. And what you just said is like, there's actually a framework of how to do it properly. And the framework is, involves like open and transparent dialogue, number one, creating a safe space. And all these things that I'm mentioning, this is what I call leadership. And that's why I'm sort of proud of this project, is because I mean, look at like Fiona. I remember like the first meetings that we had, there's like a bunch of us in the room. I mean, it's hard to believe we didn't even look at the money. I kid you not. We were focused so much on the solution that the money sort of came naturally. Resources came naturally. We all shared volunteers, marketing, collateral, you name it. And I think the last thing I would like to say is that we were convening together to talk about the community's issue, but the community is the one that's solving the issue. We're just the orchestrators in the middle. So I'll conclude it by saying the strategic triangle, if you look at that. So civil society groups are right at the top of the triangle. Then you've got government, then you've got the private sector and the market. So I think if you combine all these three efforts, then you can create massive movements like this one that we created. And we've got results as well. What was really interesting, again, from a government perspective, we got new ministers and the mayor came, such a busy schedule he has, but he was just compelled to come. And, you know, we got some good media attention. And what's great is that all the agencies, we lifted all the boats, right? Because of the rising tide. So those are a few reflections from it. Next time when we scale out, what Hani just said and what Fiona was saying, Tiffany, you know, Caleb, we've had many discussions on this before. The reasons why nonprofits and our social service projects are not scaling to the level we want is because it ends up becoming the value set of the individual siloed organization or individual leadership and so on and so forth. So here, we're all about the client-centric model. And that's something that's easy to say, harder to transpose, but we're continuously working on that. That's the whole point. Year and a half later, we're still hitting the books, doing these kind of initiatives. And hopefully one day you'll be seeing a book from Fiona, Hani, Tiffany, and Kayla on how to do projects, right? Like a best practices guide. Wouldn't that be cool?
Yeah. Well, from a patient engagement platform, I think that for us is everything about innovation. It's about results and the impact actually, and how we can ensure inclusiveness, right? And working together, we can ensure that we are reaching the end users that we intend to serve. So happy to be part of all this, and I strongly believe in collaboration and partnership and community engagement is the way to go in order to see this is a new way to do it. I would say that is something quite new in the province that has been just proven that we can just reach common goals together.
Kayla, Brian, would you like to add anything?
I think everyone's pretty well covered it. Yeah, it's definitely been the first time for all of us, I think, in working in such big collaboration. And of course, there are always challenges in anything you do, but it also felt like it came quite naturally. You know, everyone wanted to be a part of this. It wasn't that people felt they needed to be because of certain reasons. It was really everyone wanting to help this cause and this movement. So I think that was a key thing as well, is that, you know, having everyone's investment in it and everyone really wanting to see this succeed, that also made it a success as well.
Perfect. Thank you very much for sharing your thoughts on that. So I think we are just 1 minute short. So if we don't have any questions, then I think we can conclude today's session. Thank you, everyone, our speakers and all of you who attended today. Please continue to post your questions and comments for this session in Hua. And the recordings of this session will be available to watch in Hua within about 24 hours. I would also like to announce that the Twitter contest for favorite poster and video abstract is now open. Please be sure to vote for your favorite. Winners will be announced after our closing plenary session on November 20th. And tomorrow, be sure to join us for the third session on digital health and virtual research with presenters from the Alberta Clinical Research Consortium. That session starts at 12 p.m. tomorrow here in Hua. Now with that, I think we can conclude this wonderful session. So thank you everyone for joining, and have a great afternoon.